Okay. It's that moment where you're waiting for people to come on in.
There we go.
Ah. Okay, that's fine. We're not talking to ourselves.
No, we're not. We are on. We're officially live.
Hey guys.
Hi everyone.
Thanks for joining. Hello.
Yeah.
Scotland.
Yes. Oh yeah, it'd be good to know where people are from actually.
Yeah. That would be good actually.
Yeah, put your flag up.
No, don't do that because that's like a geography test.
Oh yeah, that is true. That is very true. Hi guys. Hello. Okay.
Thanks guys.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you all.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's bring in Ayo.
I'm so bad at this. Okay. And let's add. Should be coming in.
Yo, how we doing?
Hello.
Hi Ayo.
Oh my god, so I'm a bit sun-kissed. I've been on the beach, you know. I've just come to Margate for a few days. So I'm literally just been enjoying the sun. It's so beautiful.
Hot.
Yeah, I actually went for a swim. I did like 250 meters because there's a tidal pool just down the way. So it's been so nice, honestly. I feel so nice and chill.
That's great.
So nice.
Oh, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. How are you guys? Honestly, I really rate what you guys are doing, and I think it's amazing, especially how it sort of seems to have sprung up. And I just sort of keep checking in, going, "Oh my god, how many followers you got now? Like, how has that just happened in such a rapid period of time?" Like, I guess I know how it's happened, but it's so important what you're doing, and yeah, keep it up, man. It's fantastic. Great to be here with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been well, I think for everyone, it's been a really interesting and emotional and you know, a traumatic few weeks for sure. And a lot has happened in a short space of time.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we're good. We're learning along the way about, you know, how to look after ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Good. I'm happy.
thank you. So maybe we should just like say hi to people because this is the first time we've done a live.
Is it?
So,
oh my god! Hello, people that are joining. How are you doing?
yeah, that's great.
So new.
So for people that have recently started following, you know, there's 17,000 people in this community now, which is incredible. And so they might not even know who we are. They might not even know.
Intro yourselves, definitely.
Yeah, who runs this account? So Naomi,
I'm Natalie.
and yeah, and so we run Everyday Racism.
We're sisters, if
We are sisters.
really.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you want to know a bit about why we started the page? Maybe like
Please going. Yeah. Why did you start the page, and how did it all begin? And sort of, I guess for the people sort of who are just tuning in for the first time, it's probably really important to know why you think it's important the page exists as well. Really.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I think for us, it's been something that we've wanted to do for years in terms of raising awareness of you know, teaching people how to be anti-racist. We grew up in Margate. And for those of you that do not know Margate, it is a seaside town and it is very white. So growing up for us was a whole experience. And so we were pretty much, it was only really us and maybe a few other black and brown people in the area, you know, very small. So we had a lot of kind of racist moments and
I mean, as you expect though, in this
as you expect.
Should we say as you'd expect, but as I'd expect?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a city kid, so it's just, you know, these kind of places are as remote as they are. You can almost feel certain things festering in terms of racism. But we'll go into that in a second. But carry on.
Of course, yeah. So obviously we really felt that, and we've had a lot of difficult conversations, and all of that sort of stuff. And so we kind of felt like a lot of our lives we've been very much sort of gaslighted, I guess, and just sort of told that, oh no, that's not an issue. Oh, that's not you're not experienced.
I think you maybe took it the wrong way.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I understand that. I had this thing, you know, and it's like, don't think you did. So, you know, so we kind of grew up with a lot of that. And then recently, when was it? Like end of last year, I had an incident on the train where there was a racist guy who was racist to the train ticket man who was black, and he was asking the guy who was white for his ticket, and the guy refused. He said, oh, don't have a ticket, mate, you know, I'm getting off at the next stop, I don't need it. And the train guy was like, no, that's not how it works, like, you need a ticket. And then he responded with, well, did you get an effing passport to get into this country, you know? And then it kind of escalated, and I'd recorded the whole thing. And it got worse and worse, and it was, you know, oh, you're always playing the race card. So in the end, I actually got up and said something, and bearing in mind the train was full, it was like full of white people, and there's me and this other black guy, and we're having to, like, you know, defend ourselves. And it was just, obviously it was just a really awful experience. The guy was really upset. It kind of ended with them just leaving and nothing happening. And with things starting to kick off a little bit in America, this was before kind of the George Floyd thing happened, I'd been posting some stuff, and a lot of my friends and family were like, oh, I can't believe that this is happening in America, like, oh, this is so awful, like, I'm so glad it doesn't happen here. And it's like, really? Do people honestly not think that this is going on right here, like right now on your doorstep? I was like, how can I show my friend, it was literally just my friends, like, that this is happening? And I remembered that I had the video, so I shared it. And then a good friend of mine who's a musician, he shared it, and then it just went viral. So kind of that was it, and it took off. And then we sort of realised the need to have a platform where black and brown people can share their experiences and share their stories, but also allies can just be educated and actually see that this is happening. Hence why everyday racism
and
is born.
I think as well, like, after it happened that day, Natalie rang me, and I hope you don't mind me saying, but she was absolutely devastated, like crying, shaking, don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And she said the worst thing about it was that nobody else on the train said anything. There was silence on that train, and you can see it in the video. And we were like, that, of course racism is the problem, but that is the problem. It's the silence. But what can we do about that, you know? And so that day, when everybody was watching the video and messaging and saying, oh, well done for saying something, we were actually sat there thinking, no,
why didn't you say something?
Someone else, it shouldn't have been Natalie saying that. So what can we do? And so it started like that, but actually it's now become something quite different because of the murder of George Floyd and the global response.
It's really interesting watching that video, because it reminds me of so many situations, because I grew up in Birmingham, and I've been lucky enough to travel so much around the world through work and stuff like that. And, you know, those reactions and those the way people react when being dealt with by someone of color in authority is so fascinating to me. And also what you were saying about those surrounding not saying anything is just horrific, because sometimes I'm going, why? And I've been asking myself this question so many times, like, why don't people say something or stand up for said person or whatever? Because you clearly know there's something going wrong. I mean, why do you think that is? Why do you think that no one on that train? Because for the life of me, I cannot believe that every single person on that train was racist or had those kind of views, right? So why didn't anyone stand up and say, oi, mate, shut up. What you're saying is absolute nonsense. Like, why do you think that is? You must have You must have thought about that a lot.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it loads, and not just about that train incident, about everything that's happened in our lives. When we in a room and someone said a racist joke and no one said anything.
No.
And the reason, the real reason, because I think a lot of the time white people don't think it's their problem to deal with. They see it as something for you to deal with. And that is what we are really trying to address. It is no longer, and we use the term BIPOC on our page, Black, Indigenous, people of colour, when we're talking about racism more generally. It is everybody's responsibility to do this.
Massive.
And, you know, we do understand that some people don't feel confident. And, you know, so that might be a small proportion of people. They don't feel confident enough. They're not sure what to say. So that's when we're trying to do some work on that in the pen. But I actually don't think that is the main reason, because if somebody was on that train being sexist, you know, and people would have stood up. So actually, I think it's about this thing of responsibility. It's no longer BIPOC's responsibility to challenge racism, because actually we won't win because we don't have the power.
No.
So we live in a society that is set up and favours whiteness, and we live in systemic racism. We know that. We can see it in operation all the time. So how can we dismantle that system if we don't hold the power?
It's something I've been talking about a lot, and you know, I think you're right. As a person of color, you are expected to talk about race, right? Because you're the minority in many respects. Well, it's definitely minorities. So how on earth, as the single voice, are you supposed to challenge this incredible, mighty system that's already pre-built? But I think what a lot of people also don't understand, as a lot of what my white friends and a lot of white people I've met, is that we've, as a person of color, you've got a quite an interesting duality, because you see the world in two ways. You see the world as you would have the way you were brought up, and you walk out your front door and it's a whole different world. So you have to, from day one, understand how to navigate that world. Still trying to be prosperous, still trying to put food on the table, still trying to, you know, do the same things as everyone else is doing. So you've already got this awareness of your surroundings and your environment from day one. Now, what I thought was really fascinating for me on that clip of you guys on the train, of you on the train, sorry, was just how vocal you were in challenging him in his racism. And I wondered, were you petrified? Were you like, what was going on inside you? Because, you know, it's like when I've wished I've had a fight with someone and I've just gone, no, don't do it. Yeah. But then I'm like, I just wish I'd just given him one, you know, like you verbally gave him one. Like, were you, I mean, was it just the fact that you just couldn't take any more of what you were hearing?
Yeah, it was the fact that I couldn't take any more. It was disgusting what he said. He then brought in his kids, so he said that he had mixed race.
I've got 2 mixed race kids.
And I was like, no.
Is that classic? I'm not racist because I've got a black mate, yeah? So, like, I can't be racist.
Like, that's scary.
Yeah, that's actually doesn't make but no, I was petrified because you don't know what's going to happen, do you? But I think in that moment, yes, I was angry, I was annoyed, so I knew that I had to say something. But I actually didn't think I handled the situation well at all. Because I didn't think I articulated myself very well, and I thought
you did. I thought you did.
Yeah, and I got, you know, all of that. So actually, when it had happened, but even though it was a horrible experience and I was really upset, I was also really upset about how I had responded, because I was like, that wasn't good enough. And so I think there is that sense of like, we feel like we have to say certain things or certain words,
articulate the perfect answer, the perfect response,
exactly, in order for it to land. Do you know what I mean? And I think actually, I hope that helps people to realize that actually no, it doesn't have to be this really well articulated thing. You just need to call it out, and that's literally it. You are racist. What you are saying is racist. Stop playing a victim. You are racist. Like, I think that's literally just what I said over and over again.
Do you know,
that's it.
I think it's so with a lot of the discussions that have been happening, especially with George Floyd and whatnot. You've probably been on the back end of it, in terms of like white friends calling you saying, "What can I do? How can I help?"
Yeah.
And how I literally the last few weeks, I've not been able to do work because that's been admin on its own, right? And I completely understand.
Yeah.
What I want to do through my Instagram posts, especially most recently, is to open up the conversation. I completely understand that that's the place I want to go to. But we're also at a point where the internet is available and there is a lot of material there to be seen and taken. And I'm like, what? Am I the only one that can validate your non-racistness or give you clues as to how not to be racist, or can you do all the learning and then maybe come back to me with your summary of like how you feel? Because I can't take you through the steps, you know. And you guys must have had that as well, like, over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
but also being the platform that you are, I can imagine people are like, tell me more. How do I do less, or how do I become less racist?
Yeah, I think that's it.
And that's been really difficult.
Especially with like our friends and some of our family and stuff.
And
because,
our family,
you know, our phone was like non-stop for a while. We're like, what?
Where have you been all this time?
Like,
I'm not spoken to you for 10 years, mate.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think just like I wanted to explain this actually in kind of like, imagine being, you know, BIPOC or you know, and your whole life, you know, and this is probably a personal story to me. I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone else, but my whole life I've had to put myself in a box, you know. I've had to live a story that fits into the white narrative, you know. So I used to straighten my hair. I wouldn't bring up certain topics with my white friends because I didn't know where it was going to go. I wouldn't listen to certain music, or, you know, I knew that I couldn't get upset if someone said a racist joke or insulted me, because then I was the sensitive ethnic one, you know, like all of that sort of thing. And I think for a lot of people, we've had to try and pretend to be someone that we're not so that we can fit in. And the kind of way I see it is that I feel like I've been sitting in this box and I've molded myself to this box, and now suddenly white people have taken the lid off and gone, what are you doing in there? Like, come out, tell me everything. Oh my goodness, tell me your story. I want to hear it. Have I upset you? Whatever. Oh no, tell me. You need to tell me. Like, tell me that story. Do you remember that time when someone was racist to you and no one did anything?
Oh, what are you reading?
Yeah.
Oh, look at what I'm reading. Oh, I found this quote the other day. It's really inspiring.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is 30 years trauma. And most, you know, black people that I have spoken to, this is how they feel, has been opened up in a month.
Yeah.
And the light has been shined upon you. And so you're navigating not only your own absolute devastation at what is going on, you're also navigating your own personal trauma that you have suppressed to keep going and survive
and keep relationships
going. But you also are hopeful for the future. There is so much going on. So it is so important that, you know, with your black friends and with your BIPOC friends, you are really careful and really, really respectful of boundaries, and you care for them, look after them, as you would any other friend going through trauma, but you ask permission to have conversations. Because actually, if you've suffered trauma, sometimes the last thing you want to do is talk about it with someone that didn't want to hear about it 10 years ago. So, you know, that has it's bittersweet, really.
You know, it made me think of something recently. Like, literally, I've had floods of people going, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" I'm like, oh, mate, like, it doesn't take this situation for you to ask if I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm trying to deal with it best I can, of course, but thank you very much. But it just feels like, I don't know, it just feels a bit weird that everyone's asking me if I'm all right. Like, but also I don't want it to feel like black people because I think people are homogenizing blackness in many respects, is that we've become like what feels like a charity case. And I don't like that feeling as well. I've kind of got that from it where I'm like, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? Like, how much do you want? Who should I donate to? And like, I'm like, well, the first thing is just sitting down with oneself and dealing with the fact that you might have been racist in your life.
Yeah.
That's the first thing to do, right? Sit uncomfortably with oneself, look at oneself really deeply, and be like, do you know what? This system's kind of messed up, and there are moments where I personally think that I might have done something a bit dumb and stupid because I don't think I knew any better. That's the beginning for me. And black people have already been talking about this in many respects for years. People of color, people of indigenous, like I've been talking about this for many, many years. So that verbal therapy is okay. Like seeing George Floyd definitely made me feel really low because that was it in its most visual form, I guess, in many respects. But yeah, man, I've been dealing with racism for ages. I'm not just all right now. I've not been all right for don't just ask me now. And I see what you're saying when you're like, them just open the lid, go, oh my God, look at you. Like, it makes so much more sense. And I think that's what's been really interesting for me. And I don't know whether it's a very Western reaction to things, is that we quickly do stuff like donate, or we quickly do stuff that, like, you know, send a message just to say you're okay. But the reality is we've got to understand, for me, the mechanics of why we are who we are as people. And that in turn becomes the healing process. Like for us, yes, I get it. Like we're still going through trauma, but we are slowly dealing with that trauma and have been for many, many years. Now the lens is flipped slightly. I want you to deal with your, I guess it's trauma for white people as well in a weird way. Like the realization of oneself. That can be quite traumatic in essence as well. And it's that self-reflection with my white friends I'm really trying to get across and saying, look, I'm okay. Yes, I'm low, and like, yes, I'm trying to get help, but whatever. And I really appreciate it. But please, I want you to do the work. And I'm sure that's something you guys are trying to articulate as well, is why people have to do the work.
Yeah, 100%. So literally, if you want to be my friend and show up for me, then the thing that you can be doing is exactly what you said. It's doing the learning and the understanding away from me and social media and all those things. I mean, they're not bad things. I'm not saying social media and all the things that are going on are bad things, but that's not the work. No, the work is you self-reflecting and then learning how you can be actively anti-racist in this world. Because what I want from a friend is to know that if I walk into a room and I'm not safe, you are going to be speaking up. And I'm not going to be worried about your reaction, or whether you think I'm sensitive, or whether you're going to try and talk me down, or whether you're going to say anything or not. Are you even going to see it? So you've got to do that work. But it's individual, as you say. You know, our page isn't doing the work. Our page is like a starting point. It's entry level.
Yes.
Entry level. But people are literally saying, wow, never seen it like that. Like, guys, there are anti-racist educators that have been doing this for hundreds of years.
This is my thing, and it's one of the things that's really frustrated me, especially from people that I thought were totally on board and totally understood, is that, like, really, I'm talking quite high profile people in telly DMing me going, mate, can you keep doing those posts because, like, it's really educating me. And I'm like, but you're the one quoting Martin Luther King to me. You're the one, like, is it just lip service? Is this stuff not going in? And I think that's something that I've always worried about, is that it's just lip service. Quote Maya Angelou, quote, Angela Davis, quote all these people. And, like, it's just lip service.
Yeah.
You're not really listening to the words. You're not really understanding
No.
the rhetoric that's behind it and what it means and what it's trying to instill. And I don't know whether people just don't see themselves in those discussions. Back to what you're talking about in terms of people on the bus, on the train, not saying anything. They don't see. They think it's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
But if you're going to stand in solidarity of those incredible speeches from Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Angela Davis, Maya Angelou, the list goes on.
Yeah.
Why aren't you really understanding what they're saying? But also what I'm trying to get across is that this isn't just read a book and you'll be fine. This is a long-term process.
Lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
Do you think that's difficult for people to take on mentally? Because to say that, because I think the natural thing is, that's why people have contacted me for so long, so recently, is that they're like, well, tell me what I need to read, tell me what I need to look at, tell me the books, you know, the people that are sort of key right now, and I'll study it, and I'll be good, I'll be fine. And I don't think it's about that. I mean, these are all entry points, but even me understanding my blackness in British society. So if you guys don't know, I grew up in Nigeria. I was there till I was 8 years old. So I'm bilingual. So I speak both English and Yoruba, which is my mother tongue. And I came here when I moved to Birmingham. So I've always understood like the way society, I've always seen society in two different ways, obviously, but also as a middle-class black man coming to England, because of the situation in my family, we were working class British people. So I understand the frustrations of working class Britain, but also a working class black man, but I also have the sensibilities of a well-educated middle class family and all that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting because for me, I'm like, look, my journey has been a lifelong journey of understanding my blackness. You can't understand blackness in like 2 minutes or like a month or 2 months. It's almost impossible. You literally have to be on that journey for the rest of your life and keep readdressing it at moments where you're like, oh my God, have I done something wrong or whatever? And it's like any journey. There'll be moments where you go, have I done the right thing? Have I not done the right thing? And because you have to be more at ease with it. It's like learning something new. And becoming accustomed to it. As I say, it's like learning to ride a bike, right? You never forget how to ride a bike. But that process is so arduous. That process, there will be moments where you fall off. With that process, there'll be moments where you're like, I think I've got it. And then you're like, no, God, I've fallen off because I've taken too much of a risk. And it's all okay. Like, it's totally okay. But just understand, this is a journey.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And also, I think we have to remember that we are, well, as a whole, but white people are learning how to dismantle a whole system that is built
that's
on
comfortable for them.
comfortable.
That's the thing.
And that in itself is a huge deal, because also I think white people, for one, are suddenly starting to learn, oh, okay, I do benefit from the system. Some people totally get it. Some people are learning, some people totally handle it. But I think also we have to remember, but this is actually what the system is designed for. Our system it's not broken. It's not broken at all. It's working perfectly.
It's working perfectly for the
really good job. But basically, it's designed for this. It knows that these conversations are going to come up. It knows that BIPOC are going to go, actually, this isn't quite right.
We're not okay with
But it knows that white people are going to go, yeah, but we're all right. And it's all going to go back to normal. And this is what happens. We've seen it. It peaks and then it goes back, and it peaks and it goes back. But I feel like in this conversation, there does seem to be a difference and there does seem to be a shift. I don't really know why. I think maybe because things are more visual. I think because maybe it's a pandemic. But the reason why we drill we need to keep this conversation going,
keep the momentum
is
going,
because we've only scratched the surface. We have not dismantled anything. We've done nothing. So we have to keep going, and that is why white people, because you are the ones in power, can make a change. And that is why you need to action this stuff, because we need to break this stuff down. We need to start it again, and this isn't an overnight thing. This is going to be a long journey, and that is part of my fear, is when we start going back to normal after the pandemic, will this conversation go back on the shelf? And that is what I really do not want to see. I want us to keep this going, keep this momentum, because we've got to break it down, because that's exactly what the system wants.
That leads me nicely actually into what I wanted to talk to you about as well. Really, is is that, because look, we're not experts, right? We are just people within a system, and we've tried to figure out and navigate our way through that system. But in terms of solutions and how to dismantle, how do we go about dismantling a system that, rightly, as you said rightly, works very well for a particular group of people? Because also that particular group of people are also the people in power at this moment in time. And for it to keep working and being prosperous the way it is, which it always has done, said people in power will keep hold it for as long as possible.
Absolutely.
How do we go around even penetrating that? Obviously, we're seeing so far with these marches in particular that we are seeing some sort of movements with some industries, I guess. But how do we get it up there, really, as law changes, educational changes, those kind of things? Like, what do we feel?
So we've talked a lot about this because sometimes you feel like it's too big. You do feel like it's too big for you, like two girls from Margate, like what are we doing? What are we trying to do? So we really believe that there are people that are getting this and they are genuinely on board and they want to make a difference. And all we have, all of us, is our sphere of influence. That's all we have, like our world, the doctor's surgery that we visit, the school we send our children to, the place we do our spiritual worship, our coffee shop, our sphere, our families, our friendship groups, our sphere of influence. So if you have people in your sphere of influence that are doing this work and they are actually doing the work, they are showing up, they are being actively anti-racist. If they start to use their privilege to influence their sphere all over this country, all over the world, people are going to make change. But it's not going to happen if it's just a few of us trying to go to like big global organizations, because they're not going to let us through the front door. But if you've got people in these organizations and you are writing to your boss, and we've written letters, we've spent the last 2 weeks just in our sphere writing really, we've been nervous about sending these letters, and we're saying, what are you doing about making your organization actively anti-racist? We want to see what's going on. Can we meet with you? Can you show us? Can you tell us what your action plan is? And that's just us. So if we had like the 30 friends that we've got that are rallying and cheering us on, if they're all doing that as well, suddenly those managers, those head teachers, those business owners, they can't ignore that, and they have to be accountable. So if we all do our small part, we believe we can change the world. It takes for not everybody, because not everybody is going to get it. But if, all those people that posted a black square or did a week of diversifying their feed and amplifying black voices on their Instagram, if they all started to do that stuff in their sphere of influence, there would be real change. There would. And actually what is really powerful is if it's white people doing it. Because I'll give you a simple example. At my son's primary school, so I can go down, and no incident has happened, but I could go down to my son's primary school and I could talk about stuff, and I could say this and this, and this didn't happen, but you could get the response of, oh, it's because she's black, or because of her mixed race son, she's a bit sensitive about it. We'll send a newsletter out, that'll you know, that'll keep her calm.
Yeah.
But actually, if 30, 40 white mums wrote a letter and made an appointment to see the head teacher about this, I bet you something would get done.
Yeah, massively. And that's, you know, I think that's a very, very valid point. This is something I've always played with, though, is that do you think it's possible to make everyone anti-racist, every white person anti-racist? Because I don't think it's possible. Not that I'm defeatist in any way. I just think it's almost impossible for everyone to be thinking on the same wavelength. If we could just garner more people like that we already have, that's important for me, you know, like, because as I've been saying, this is a lifelong journey, but, you know, I can't. It's like, you know, there will always be people that fight back because it threatens the direct privileges they've had since day squat, right? It's like what we're seeing with, you know, the far right groups trying to coming to, you know, rally rounds to support the Churchill statue.
Yeah.
I mean, that statue's been vandalized in every single bloody protest ever, right? Why this one, mate? It's because it challenges directly what it means to be British or English, right? Which is the unspoken thing in this country, in my opinion, and that means being white. Because I can tell you the history I've been taught at school. I can look back at all the famous stories that I've been told to read, and they didn't include anyone like me. So that's basically what it is to be British. So I don't think it's possible to change everyone's view, but I do think it's possible that we start now. And I think that those small pebbles leading to ripples idea, I think it's a very solid idea. Definitely, I think so. But I'm even more about also how we drive this sort of holistic change within industry as well. So, you know, for instance, you know, we've had all these diversity initiatives for years. In like, so I came into the BBC 15 years ago on the diversity initiative. So I lived in Manchester and Sheffield, grew up in Birmingham, and I luckily got this job for 2 months down in London. And then 2 months after that, I got asked to be, I got asked if I wanted to be a Blue Peter presenter. And then and it was really mad because they asked me, I remember the boss at the time was like, we're looking for a black presenter.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, do you want me? Because like, I'm actually, don't get me wrong, I'm sick of what I do. But like, is it because you need a black presenter or is it because you need a presenter? And so that's where I'm like, okay, we're still talking diversity 15 years ago like it's something that's totally brand new, which primarily means a lot of the diversity initiatives that have been happening over the last few years just don't work.
No.
Or they're so short-lived and they've got no holistic or they've got no longevity attached to them. So how do we then, because also we need to get people of color, indigenous people, into positions of power.
Yeah.
How do we drive that change much quicker? Because on a societal level, I understand, like, we can start planting those seeds. But I'm talking, like, the decision makers. Because if the decision makers are of a different makeup, then we start seeing decisions that ripple down to society. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's happening at Vogue is incredible. You know, I mean, you know, like, you can see the change is so powerful there. It's so hard, Ayo, because that... You're right. That is where it needs to happen, is at the top.
And it can't be seen as tokenistic either. That's the other thing.
That's a different sensitivity, because inevitably, I feel, because of the way the system's skewed, it will always be seen as that. And unfortunately, and I hate it, is that whoever is in that position will have to fight and prove themselves the same way our parents would have told us, you have to prove yourselves. That is not going to change anytime soon, because what you're doing is you're back to what I'm talking about, and that's a very small example of it in terms of, you know, this far right protecting that Churchill statue, is that you're threatening the status quo. And there will always be people that feel like their feathers are ruffled and don't like that. So you will still have to battle, but it's making that channel more accessible. If you look, you know, Edward Enninful at Vogue, as you said, the backlash he received when he got that post, and even now still, from putting not just black people on the front cover, but like NHS workers and people that aren't like white models. I'm just like, I'm really sorry. Like, what? But also in an industry that continuously rips off culture to suit itself, like, it makes total sense. But I think for so long, it's that people haven't seen value, and by value I mean monetary value in culture, in various cultures. And I think what is changing now, back to what you guys were saying, is that there are slowly becoming more groundbreakers who are in sort of positions of power, but also it's what they do with that power that's really, really important. And actually what they do is continuously push it. Even me, like as a presenter, so I work for the Premier League now, and I mean, I've had issues there, serious issues. But bear in mind, there is not one single black board member in the entirety of the Premier League, considering the amount of football players that play there. And working for Premier League television, it is really tricky, because I can't have an opinion on anything, really, as the presenter. Yet I'm like, I know there's some serious issues here, not just in this building, but on the pitch as well. So I, as the black person, have to be like, well, you know, the Premier League is rolling out anti-racism. Two thumbs up. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And that's actually got me to really reassess who I am as a presenter, and the things I want to attach myself to, and the industries I want to attach myself to, and the spaces I want to attach myself to. Because for so long, what I've been doing is what you guys have talked about, is that hiding thing, is that you become the good immigrant, you become the acceptable immigrant, or the acceptable brown. And now feels like a really interesting time where I'm just like, do you know what? Excuse my language, stick my two fingers up. Let's go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Because I just don't think what we've been doing is good enough.
No.
And what you've seen now is that what you haven't been doing is good enough. What you've been doing isn't good enough. So we've now reached a boiling point, whether it not be that we're on a lockdown or whatever. And there is also no hiding. But even still within that, and I know you guys have seen it, there are still brands that are on that lip service vibe. That are like, we stand by your side, L'Oreal. Talk to me about what you've already done.
But that's a great example, Ayo, because actually when that came out, when Mum wrote and put the post and said, what on earth, you know, are you doing? How dare you post that? And you think, well, with that kind of company, they're not going to back down. Like, you know, they make millions and millions, you know, they're not bothered. Actually, the power in people coming together and holding L'Oreal to account, you know, a few days later, they come out and apologize, and then they have employed her as an advisor. You know, so they can't, if we hold people to account, we saw it with the Booker Prize as well this week. I mean, it was a bit half-hearted, but they had to step up. Because we were writing, we were petitioning, we were calling them out publicly. And so there is a bit, it's that activism as well. We do need the activism. I'm not, you know, just saying that, oh, we just need to, you know, of course, we need it all. We need it, you know, coming from all angles, because that is how, you know, things will change. And the other thing we, you know, haven't said is education.
Yes.
I'm a teacher. I'm a secondary school teacher, and it's not on the curriculum. I have no responsibility whatsoever to have to teach anything about anti-racism, about black culture, and about black history.
As a teacher, though, have you stoked the fire a little and gone, why are we not doing it? And what's the reply you've had, if you have?
So so I am really fortunate that my school are incredibly supportive. In fact, you know, I obviously told them what I was doing tonight and the page, and my leadership team said, yeah, we know, we all follow it, we think it's brilliant.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing. And wow.
They said, you've got the full support of the leadership team behind you, and we're you know, running some initiatives and having the conversations about the curriculum. So, but I don't think that's the norm. I don't think that's happening. I mean, Parliament rejected even.
I know.
So someone said schools can choose to do this themselves. So you're just leaving it up to chance. So we've got to go after education big time. And that doesn't just mean teachers. That means parents. Parent power. It is extremely, extremely important. And so if you are watching this and you have a child at a school, then hold the school accountable.
Yes, yes, so true, so true.
But other than what they're doing, you know, if my son came home and he hasn't learned his literacy for 5 years, I'd probably have something to say about it.
It's so true, so true.
My son comes home and he hasn't brought a book home that tells him anything about his ancestry, then I'm going to say something about it. So, and it shouldn't just be me saying it, it should be everybody. So there is massive power in education. We know that. We know how crucial it is.
Yeah.
So that is something we have got to go after, and we're talking about what that looks like. For everyday racism, how do we get involved in that? Because that's something we feel really strongly about.
Yeah, I'm sort of then interested in where you guys want to take this, really, because it's such a wonderful space now to open up those discussions and also have the power to influence change. So from my side, you know, I'm looking at building up some sort of consultancy where we directly go into media industry and we try and dismantle it from that point of view. And, you know, touch wood, we're having a couple of meetings with some pretty big agencies at the moment. And I guess that's one of the lovely things, is that people seem receptive. And I think for me, the power is that we try something that's not been done before. And I feel the only way we can go by our work is by getting people to really challenge their bias, like genuinely, like I'm trying to figure it out, but like some sort of test, like academically, like connected, to sit you down and go, yes, you're racist. It's like the COVID test. Like, I haven't got COVID. Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
Look at this. Do you know what I mean? Like, seriously, because those things do exist, right? And when people can plainly see it, they've got nowhere to hide. And then we can start to dismantle you as a person. Then we can start to dismantle this industry as a person. Because I still have issues with the charity industry in terms of when we, as an African, when people come to African countries and the way they talk about African countries, I'm like, nah, man, like, you can't keep playing this card. You can't keep doing that. Because as someone of British and, you know, Nigerian heritage, that's not what I see when I'm back home in Nigeria. That's not what my mates see when they're in Kenya. But then you build up this rhetoric that homogenizes the entire continent to poverty and a continent that needs to be donated to. By all means, I get it. Like, but it's just the way that story should be told should change as well.
Absolutely.
Where do you guys want to take this your way? I'm really interested. And what does the future look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we didn't have a big plan, Ayo. It was not like...
That's interesting. It's good.
Genuinely has not. It literally came out of... I went into Natalie's room and she was like, look how many people have watched that video.
Like, do we start a page now? And
That's brilliant.
I think we just said, because we had been, like, we're learning ourselves. We are doing the reading. We are listening to the podcast. Like, we are doing all of this learning as well. You know, and, you know, we have, our mother's white. So we have a certain amount of privilege ourselves. Absolutely. So we recognize that. So we have much to learn. And we were like, but how can we do something, like, other than just talk to each other? So we were like, we had the adrenaline of like, oh, loads of people saying Nats is a queen, so right, let's start this page. And so it genuinely was, let's give people the opportunity to tell their story, because we just felt like there were a lot of people saying, I can't believe this happens. I can't believe what happened on the train. And we're like, we can. Like,
happens all the time. I see it all the time. Yeah.
Hence everyday racism. But secondly, you know, what do you do after you've read those stories? Because it's not, you know, it's not about trauma porn. It's like, read these stories. You can't argue with someone's story. You know, they're telling you this happened to them. So you can't argue with that. So then if you feel uncomfortable about what's happened to them, or you're angry about it, or you're upset about it, what do you do with that energy? And that's why we sort of started to do some of the learning posts, which by far are the most popular.
Interesting.
So, you know, and we're not about the likes, you know, like that doesn't mean anything to us.
It's the engagement, though, really, for me. If you, even if 10 people took that away and really made a change, like,
exactly.
Imagine.
So but what we're getting is people are reading, like, you know, how to respond to racist comments. We were literally like, oh, do you think this is a bit patronizing, or do you think, oh, we don't know, but we put it out there, and literally, like, we have people saying, I've used that with, like,
that's amazing. That's so amazing.
I've taken work and I've told my boss we need to teach this to the team. Like, literally, people are taking it, this very simple, practical guidance, but I think it perhaps is giving them the confidence to go, oh, this is, we can say this. This is okay. Like, and so we, at the moment, we feel like that's the right thing to be doing. The explanations, the sharing of the stories, and then the practicality of what does the work look like? What do you do with that anger and that energy and that comfort that you're feeling? And also, obviously, signposting to the experts, the women we're learning, and men that we're learning from, and who are running the incredible courses and writing amazing books. So, but yeah, I guess at the moment that's where we are. And then we just want to keep this momentum up. Ayo, like, we're not going away. We're going to keep.
Please don't. You say it's official. We've done it here. It's official. I want to keep. I want to see what the next. Literally, we've got until Christmas to at least see. Right. Keep going. Anything after Christmas is a bonus. But I rate it, though, and I really. I'm just blessed for things like this, you know, and I think this is a perfect time, really, to, as I've always said, to start those discussions, really, and have them our way as well. And I think unapologetically have them our way. There's no hiding anymore. And I think that was probably what was more symbolic about the George Floyd thing more than anything. Not that, I guess it was the catalyst based on media attention and stuff, but that contextualized visually exactly a lot of the pain that a lot of people of color, people indigenous backgrounds go through. Like, makes a lot of sense, and you can't deny what you saw. There is no what, yeah, maybe it's just an off-in incident, and then you see this ripple effect of like, oh, and then it's like, oh, this has been happening. I was like, yeah, it also makes the news, but no one seems to be catching on. Like, you know, and I think that's why what you're doing is so important. I think that's also why the reaction to your video was so powerful, is that you can't hide from that. Like, you can't. What can you say about that? Oh, he was drunk. No, you didn't look drunk, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, but also I think you can, from my standpoint, I'm looking at you thinking, go on, give him one. Yes, mate. And, you know, that was the beauty of that post. And I just wish for someone like George Floyd, there was someone who could have kicked those policemen off him and gone, mate. But obviously, because of police brutality, blah, blah, blah. I think what's also important as well, from your point of view, calling it Everyday Racism UK, is to highlight the fact that this happens here on the regs. And it's something I've been trying to get across to a friend of mine who's like, mate, don't come on. I was like, and I had to give him just a list of names, and I'm not going to skip lists of names here because they are available on the internet as well. Please go check. But, like, you know, like, generally, as close back as 2017, as close back as 2019, you know, there are incidents that are happening in this country, police brutality, and people go, "We have guns." I was like, nah, mate, it's not about that. It's unbiased stuff, but also the way people of color are mistreated in hospitals, like in treatment, like. The list goes on. A doctor came out the other day and was like, yeah, I mean, I'm privy to it. Like, you know, we sometimes don't give black women certain drugs because we think they've got a higher pain threshold. I'm like,
that happened to me. And do you know what? I didn't even know it had happened to me until I read about the work that lots of women are doing about Black women being more likely to die in childbirth. And I read this article and I literally I could not believe it, but that was my experience in hospital. So you're just, like, they told me to go home. They told me to go home, and I would have had my son with my mum in the car at Victoria Lights. And I refused. I refused to go home. And my mum is an incredible ally. She's like the model ally. And she's not going home. She said she's not going home. But, you know, and so this is the thing. This stuff is going on. And sometimes you don't even realise it's not. Like, that's how nuanced this stuff is. And just talking about the stories, the UK story. You know, obviously we put out you know, if you've got a story, could you let us know? And when we approached some of our friends, you know, to see if they wouldn't mind sharing. And everybody we've spoken to has said, yeah, I just don't know which one. It's not, oh, I'll have a think if I've got a story. It's literally like, choose which one. Which one do you want me to share? So, you know, this denial about racism in the UK is ridiculous. It needs to end, because, and like you say, that's why we call the pay, because we're like, we have to talk about it here. We have to. It's not an American problem.
Honestly, I don't know, man. Like, are we? I just want to be hopeful, right? This is my thing. I just want to be as hopeful as I possibly can, because now feels more powerful than any other time, whether it be the rise of social media, whether it be just being available to so many or more other outlets for information. It just feels something feels different right now. And I don't know if it's you, if you guys feel it as well, but something really does feel different. I just want it to be sustainable. I just want it to be sustainable. And that's my fear, is that it stays sustainable and people keep going. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's my only fear, but I sort of feel they will. And I'm trying to I want to wrap this up, but I want us to end on what we feel the true reality is. You know, our heart of hearts. I want us to speak from the heart here. Do we think that we can keep going with this? Do we think that the momentum is not just momentary and it feels like it's gonna keep going in the next year, at least in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I do. We are hopeful, but we have to be, because otherwise we might as well just shut it all down now. Like, we've got to have the hope. And the other thing is that keeps us going is our role models, that, you know, and we've got No Reed here in the UK, who is incredible. Like, we absolutely adore that lady. And, you know, if you've not heard of her, go and follow Nova Reed. She runs anti-racism courses, and yeah, especially if you're white, she does specific courses for you.
Brilliant.
And, you know, Rachel Cargill and Layla Saeed and all of these incredible women, they have been doing it, so we owe it to them to keep going. We owe it to those women. And I love it, because Layla Saeed says she does it for love, and she does it for her ancestors.
Yes.
Get a little bit flat or a little bit unhopeful, those words resonate. We do it for love, and we do it for our ancestors.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think really quickly is that we may never see the result. We may see improvement, but I don't think in my lifetime I'm going to see systemic racism dismantled. But I have to hold hope that the next generation are going to carry that on. You know, that's it. So, yeah.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much, man. This is a long time coming. I'm so glad. We should do another one, honestly, because it's been really nice. It's been lovely seeing all the comments as well. We should do another one. Maybe you guys ask me the questions next time, and then we do the Q&A this way. That'd be amazing. But, you know, it's so nice that we connected, and I really, honestly, I love meeting people from Margate who are going through these experiences, because having, you know, I'm lucky enough to spend my time in both London and Margate, and, you know, coming here, yeah, man, it's been real. Like, it's been really real. but also, I don't know what about you. Like, I went to the protest
Oh
a
yeah.
few weeks ago, and the reception was unbelievable.
Powerful.
And that was so powerful, and that was left me so hopeful that
Yes.
if this little place can start making these changes, or at least acknowledging these changes, perhaps we've got hope for like much other, because that's always been the thing. Well, it's a small town, you know, you got to understand there's not many black people there, whatever. I couldn't believe what I saw, and I was just like, wow. And I can only hope that you guys have been a massive factor to that and contribute